Let me guess. Your child doesn't have just one speed. One moment they're bouncing off the walls, they're shouting, they're climbing on furniture, they're spinning around, and they're melting down if things don't go their way. The next moment, they're zoned out, blank stare, disconnected. They can't follow instructions. And it might be that they're in the room, but doesn't feel like they're really there. As a parent, you've tried all the parenting strategies. You've done behavior reward charts. You've talked to their pediatrician. Maybe you've done medications or loads of supplements. And you're left asking, why is my child like this? More importantly, what can I do to actually help them? And that's what I want to dive into in this video is that ADD, ADHD is often the tip of the iceberg. In our office, we actually look at and specialize in what is the underlying neurological pattern happening. We divide things into two categories that I want to share with you in this video. The raging bull, which is the always moving, the impulsive, touching, never sitting still kiddo. And then the drunken bull. This pattern is the kiddo that is a little disorganized, foggy brain, more exhausted, maybe slouches in their chair. They become overwhelmed and confused by the world around them. And what we find for parents is when you can better understand what pattern is really happening in your child's brain, you can start to feel more empowered to actually help them and be able to help them in a way that doesn't just treat the symptoms at the tip of the iceberg, but know your child is deeply, truly getting better because their nervous system is healing. So I want to dive in to those two different categories. And before I do, I'll share a quick story of 12-year-old Lily. When she came to see us, she had been diagnosed with the inattentive type of ADHD. That's what falls more under that drunken bull category. And just after the first month of care, mom was filling out her progress exam and she said, it's like she woke up. It's like she has this newfound spark. She's more silly, she's more fun, and her moods are just so much better. And that's because we started to look at her nervous system differently. So, to dive into those two categories in a little bit here, I want to give you more details of how we assess these in the office, and we'll go into the patterns that you can see on the screen here. But before I do, I want to help you understand what is really going on beneath the surface. Because when it comes to something like ADHD, you're not alone. Over 7 million kids in the US have been diagnosed, and over half of them are on an ADHD medication. And while, yes, it might be great for helping them focus better in school or not getting sent to the principal's office, maybe their grades have improved, we also talk to parents all the time who are concerned about the side effects. Some of these that parents share with us or that you'll see on the label of the medication include things like sleep and insomnia challenges. They have trouble falling asleep or staying asleep. And of course, that now sets up their next day to be a little more trouble. Appetite suppression is a common thing where kids aren't gaining weight or parents are afraid they're not getting all the nutrition that they need. One crazy thing is because of a rebound effect, emotional dysregulation and irritability can be a common side effect. Often it's one of the things parents are trying to help with anyway. Anxiety, nervousness is common, maybe more restlessness that might represent itself in anxiety, or tics and motor involuntary movements can be a side effect. Headaches, stomach pain, nausea, increased blood pressure and heart rate, the cardiovascular risks can be concerning sometimes for kiddos on these meds. And then the last one, social withdrawal or zombie like behavior. It's like kiddos sometimes lose their personality. And that's one of the things that we find is something we get so excited to be able to help with in our office is when a parent is worried that yes, the medication is helping my child get better grades and behave better, but it feels like they're not who they normally are. I feel like they're not as creative. They're more withdrawn. Their social skills aren't as good. There's sometimes like this sort of fog over them. And when you can feel empowered to help, now you can start to brighten and open up your child to the world around them. So, with those two different categories, as I mentioned, what we're looking at differently in our office is what is actually happening underneath the surface with their nervous system. So, the first one I mentioned, raging bull, happens when the nervous system gets stuck in a fight or flight response. The gas pedal is on and it is staying on. And your kiddo is just like racing a car around all the time. They're running, they're moving, they're climbing, they're jumping, they're talking. Sometimes you feel like, whew, I just need a break from them. Right, this is the kiddo that doesn't sit still, that's always wiggling, that's always looking to get attention from the other kiddos. Maybe they notice a little bit of excitement in the corner and they want to join it and add to the fun, and it escalates the energy in the classroom. With this case, we get this sympathetic dominance. Sympathetic is the fight flight side of the nervous system, and it gets stuck on. What we see here is the pattern in this type of kiddo scan is a lot of energy. So the middle one here, I don't know if there, I think my mouse is lining up. Here we go. So this middle one here is the raging bull. You can see on this one all these red bars. This scan in particular, what it's measuring is how much energy is going through a kiddo's body. So in the raging bull category, we often see it's just an overload of energy. Now, the cool thing with this is they might often be really good at things like sports. They might be the fastest, the most coordinated, and they never run out of energy. So they're always going, going, going. And what the challenge is if their brain is always going, 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 they might always be skipping from one thing to a next. However, if we can harness that energy, that becomes this amazing superpower for a kiddo. I remember eighth grader Sean, when he came to see us, he was diagnosed with ADHD, and I could tell he was a really bright kid. And I asked him, like, well, I know you're feeling distracted right now with some of the projects and schoolwork you have to do, but I bet your brain processes the world really quickly. And he said, oh, yeah. I mean, I was sitting in this room, and in 10 seconds, I knew what that was, what that was, what that was. I had it all figured out, right? And because his brain processed really quickly, it was easy for him to become bored because he just wanted to move on to the next thing. And the other challenge is with a raging bull brain is because it's always moving on to the next thing, it often can't stay focused long enough if a project needs more details and more attention and multiple steps because their brain is just going on to something else. So in this case, what we're looking for is if there's this overwhelm of energy, it's often, as I said, that sympathetic dominance is stuck on. Our goal in this case is to hit the brake pedal, to take the edge off, to start to slow things down enough for your kiddo's brain to pay attention and feel like it can complete a task before going on to the next thing. In this case, we're often working a lot with the vagus nerve. This is the nerve that comes from the brainstem and is the major brake pedal for the nervous system. Gas pedal speeds things up. It's good if your kiddo's playing football or soccer or tennis or running around. And then the brake pedal is what slows things down. It calms and organizes the brain. It allows your brain to shut off, to drift off, to sleep at night. It allows you to digest your food, to strengthen your immune system, to be able to rest and restore. So, in a raging bull situation, brake pedal is critical. Now, the next side of things then that we see is the drunken bull. How these can combine together is that one kiddo that might start out as a raging bull, over time, if their gas pedal is constantly on, their system starts to become disorganized, confused, overwhelmed, sort of run down. That's when you might see the kiddo that now, if they're in this drunken bull situation, they don't quite connect with the environment as well as the other people there. They don't pick up as quickly what's going on. They might be physically disconnected and a little sloppy as well. Maybe they're not as coordinated on the playground. They don't move as quick as the other kids. They tumble, they fall. A lot of times these kiddos, though, one of their gifts is they're amazing at art. They're incredibly creative. They can sit down, they can zone out the world around them, but they can draw and paint and write and be in this creative mode for hours at a time. So, in this drunken bull category, what we might see early on is a kiddo that did have their nervous system stuck in fight or flight. Maybe it was a colicky baby. Baby had a lot of reflux, didn't sleep well, maybe was constipated early on. If the nervous system stays stuck in fight or flight, they might have had a lot of ear infections, tonsil adenoid issues, breathing problems, things that develop into sensory issues. They don't like clothes, the tags and the seams. They get overwhelmed by noises, by lights, by birthday parties. They can't like quite settle into their environment. And what happens is if the nervous system is stuck in this fight flight response, it might sort of stay there and develop the raging bull, or it might be there for a little bit and now fatigue, run down, and go into the drunken bull. So, in that situation here, and we use these titles to be a little playful in the office and help you as a parent understand things. So, if we go over to this side of things, instead of just all the gas pedal stuck on, all the red, the energy coursing through the body that we see with the raging style, this one is a little more disorganized. It might be really high in energy in one area and completely shut down and depleted in another area. So, this disorganization might have also shown up early on as a kiddo that missed their milestones or didn't crawl well or skipped crawling altogether. So, one of the things we love diving into with a parent is we not only see currently where their kiddo's at, but we go back in time. We talk about pregnancy, we talk about labor and delivery, we talk about all these early clues that give us a better understanding of not only why your child's at where they are right now, but then by breaking down how they got there, we can also assess how to get them better. So, with that nervous system side of things, what happens is over time, if it gets shifted out of balance, it can never catch up. And you might rely on now these external measures, whether it is a medication to try to shift their neurology, or maybe it is essential oils or vitamins or supplements, or you're trying to get them to do a calming breath and you're trying to regulate their nervous system from the outside. What we find in our office is our goal is to help regulate their nervous system from the inside because that can make all the difference in the world. So you might find your child is the raging bull. That is probably going to be diagnosed as like the hyperactive side of ADHD versus the drunken bull might be more of the inattentive side of things. And that's the old school ADD. They actually don't use that category anymore. They've lumped everything into the ADHD category with different subtypes. And so our goal isn't to label those subtypes and just give you a different treatment plan on the surface. Our goal is actually now restoring the nervous system to balance. So in that inattentive case, that tends to be more disorganized. So our first goal is to actually reorganize the nervous system because when the body is better organized, it allows the brain to be better organized too. So, as we wrap up this video, please know that there is hope for your child. By understanding their neurology, you can really start to shift their well being, not only now, but in the future as well. And our goal is to allow your child's nervous system to process the world the best it can. To take that raging bull energy, if they're going from one thing to another, to be able to actually keep their brain moving just as quickly, but to actually harness it in one common direction long enough to move forward in that direction. If your kiddo has that inattentive, kind of drunken, disorganized, not in tune with the world, our goal isn't to shut down their creativity, but to allow them to still see the world differently, to still get engulfed in art if they want to, and be the most creative genius out there, but also to feel more comfortable, more settled, more in tune with what's going on around them. So if that resonates, please reach out. We're here for you. Shoot us a message. Check out our website for more information. And we'd love to see what we could do to help your child thrive.